This episode is not appropriate for children. It contains themes of horror, violence, death, paranoia, discrimination, coarse language, and fire. Specific warnings and their timestamps can be found at the end of the description.
Hey, Mark. I want to start by saying I'm sorry if I scared you with my last entry. I really didn't mean to. Nicole's fine. Like, really, really fine. I went to see her this morning at the cafe. She was in the back icing gingerbread men. We talked about the fair that's happening at the end of the summer. I'm not sure if I mentioned it yet, though. I guess you'd know the one. They've been doing it every year since forever. It's kind of turned into this big tourist draw now. The council's been on this big tourism kick the last few years. Everything's about how many people they can get to visit and bring in more community revenue. Not that it gets to the community. The actual fair is still mostly just local Darwin spirit, as you'd say. Grandad takes the horses and offers rides. All the old ladies crack out their arts and crafts projects. The library sells off all its damaged books for cheap. The old bus they used to use for the RSL gets brought out to take tourists over to the Billabong. It's actually a really fun time. It's like the one thing I'm looking forward to while I'm here. But Andrea and Nicole always do a stall, is what I was getting at. Nicole bakes up a storm and they sell out every year, but Nicole does these gingerbread men of all the people who help run the fair, like as a little thank you gift. They're really good too. Grandad didn't eat his one from last year, just kept it to look at, said it captured his eyes. But she was practicing them when I went in. She was icing up Bill, the council head. He's got these big, chunky 80s glasses. I didn't know they were making those anymore, or if they're just still the same ones from way back when. But she'd done them so well I couldn't stop giggling. She let me take it home. Tasted real good too. And I got a lot of satisfaction just chomping Bill's head off all at once. Grandad's been trying to get some council funding to help restore some of the old roads out to the farms that aren't doing so well right now. And Bill's been cutting them off at every pass. Says Darwin needs to focus on tourism and relevancy, not roads only a couple people have a drive on anyway. But, I guess he's got a bit of a point because the fair works. The town, doubles in size for the weekend, which isn't a massive amount of people, but it's a lot for Darwin. Anyway, the reason I'm messaging, calling, talking to you is that I went over to Grandad's after talking to Nicole to show him the Bill cookie. I thought he'd get a laugh out of it too, and he'd appreciate the ceremonial decapitation as well. But Nan had all her old photos out. She has thousands of them. She was sorting through the ones of me as a kid, wanted to send me back to uni with a photo album. So I thought I'd ask, because I thought maybe she might. You know, if there were any photos of that night you talked about, the one with the bonfire. She thought it was a little strange that I was asking, but she had some, more than some, like a whole reel of films worth. Said it wasn't that often that everyone got together like that at the farm, and she'd wanted to surprise people with photos from the night, but that she didn't, because when she got them developed, something weird had happened to the film. She said it was like those photos that get used to make people think ghosts are real, like light distortion and lens flares and all that stuff. But I asked to look at them anyway. She kept them all. She's kind of a hoarder like that. And Mark, those photos, it's like the people in focus are normal, smiling, happy. The ones she took at night have got those red eyes that the flash on cameras used to make all the time, but the people in the background, there's this distortion over their faces, like they've gone double, but the face on top it's wrong, like something out of The Exorcist. I don't, and I just keep thinking about all those people in one place together, about this thing being there without anyone noticing, about the fair at the end of the summer. And then there's this one photo of Nan and Grandad. They must have had someone else take it. They're standing in front of the bonfire, but the person who took it wasn't very good because they've got the bonfire in focus, not Nan and Grandad. And those wrong faces are there. And it looks like they're looking at the fire. And Mark, I don't think you're crazy because I swear to God the fire is looking back.
It's getting weird, Elle. I don't know if this thing is listening to us or messing about with my time and your time, but stuff's happening. I didn't notice anything until I heard your last message, but there's something going on in Darwin. Something's not right. And something that's not like just this face in the fire business. This may not seem like anything yet, but they've just announced that Bill is the new council head. Everybody seemed real happy about that. New young blood is what they're saying. A big push into exciting new territory. Sounds like he got what he wanted. Us older fellas aren't too happy about it. He's always been a bit too slick. Spent some time up at university and then came back and forgot who he was. Look, some people don't get it. And he's one of them. Not you, Elle. You're right. The summer fair's the thing. That's what the community's about. What you said is what I've been trying to convince you of the whole time. Anyway, so Bill, he took over from a fella called Harold, and we used to call him Hairy Harry when I was younger. Hair come out of his nostrils and his ears. Now that I'm older, I've got some of that myself, but it was a different time. And when Bill announced that he was taking over, he said that Harry had to take an extended leave of absence and was returning to the city to care for family. That wasn't that weird. We all knew Harry had a sister who was sick. He'd been back and forth for a while. Seemed normal. A couple of the other guys said they had heard something about it. And then I was closing up at work and just being in the place, I guess, reminded me. I was closing a couple of weeks ago and Bill walked past the store with Harry. And they were just chatting about something, but Harry seemed a little annoyed with Bill. That was fair. We're all a bit annoyed with Bill mostly. Then 10 minutes later, Bill jogs past the store without Harry, and I tried to wave him down, but he seemed sort of distracted. I don't know if that means anything, or but then a few days later, we heard that a car was torched just outside of town. It happens sometimes, just kids being stupid. Not often, but sometimes. The cops asked around and they couldn't work out whose car it was, but I heard that the flames were massive. And then Bill showed up in a brand new car. I don't know what it's like in your time, but we don't have a dealership in town. Did he already have the car or what? I don't know. I just... Look, tell your granddad to watch out for Bill. He's bad news. And you stay safe too.
Mark, I've just got finished listening to your last message. Maybe if I've heard it earlier. I was up early this morning. My parents own the general store in town, probably the same one you work at, I guess. They haven't owned it for super long. They took it over when we moved back here from the city when I was little so that Mum could be closer to her parents. Anyway, but I was on open and was manning the store by myself for the morning. Mum and Dad have been cutting me some slack because of the whole us not getting along right now thing, but looks like they've gotten over that awkwardness and it's back to work. It's my granddad. I saw him through the front window coming out of the library across the road. He hadn't said he was coming into town today, and he had his face on that he used to get when I was little and I'd done something that really meant I was in trouble. I haven't seen it in ages. I forgot how scary he could look. So I put up the back in 5 sign and ran out just to ask him what was going on. Obviously, it's not normal for him to be looking that furious about something or to be storming around town at 9 a.m. And I got out of the shop just in time to see him walking into the council building and that he was holding some papers. They looked all official too in one of those old-fashioned filing folder things. So I went in after him, and Harriet on the desk said he just barged straight through to Bill's office, and could I go in and get him out because he wasn't supposed to be in there, and we could hear him yelling from all the way down the hall. Harriet looked pretty upset about it, so I said I'd go get him. But as I got closer, I could hear what Grandad was saying, and apparently since Bill's been blocking all Grandad's requests for funding and repair works and things, he thought he'd dig into the council records for the last few years. That's what he had in his hand from the library, I guess. Now, Grandad's been running his farm for over 40 years, although I guess you know that. He's not a math genius or anything, but he knows how money works and income taxes and invoicing and all that business stuff that I don't really get. Dad gets him to come and check the records for the shop most years before they do their tax. But what I'm saying is that I trust Grandad to know if someone's cooking the books or whatever. And from what I could hear in the yelling was that he was saying that Bill was doing that, had been doing that, just little things, easy to miss if you live in a small town where everyone trusts everyone and no one's looking too closely at the records. But Grandad found it. And when I got to the door, Grandad was saying that he wanted to see the official council financial statements, the ones the library doesn't have access to, that he wanted Bill to own up to just how far he'd meddled with what should have been town funds, and he wanted Bill to finally admit that whatever he was doing on the council, it wasn't helping the people of Darwin. Maybe if I'd heard your message before, I would have interrupted and stopped him from saying all of it, but I wanted him to. And I wanted to know how it would play out, what Bill would say back. But he didn't. Grandad stopped yelling, and then there was silence. Eerie silence. They'd both just left the room, even though there was nowhere else for them to go. There was nothing, Mark. Not even a noise from outside on the street. The whole world was holding its breath or something. And then Grandad just walked out, opened the door and walked straight past me. He didn't even seem to see that I was there. I called out, but he just kept walking right out the door. And when I looked back, Bill was just sat behind his desk, staring at me through those stupid big glasses, and he looked satisfied. Mark, is my Grandad in trouble? If Bill is somehow connected to all this, we need to figure it out, because I couldn't live with myself if something bad happened to my Grandad. I just couldn't.
If Bill's seen you, then you're deep into it now. He's definitely involved. I heard your message and this whole thing's taken hold of me. My missus told me that I've been distracted in the last few days. It's all because of this. Everywhere I walk, I see these strange things. It might just be a trick of the light or my mind playing silly buggers, but I swear that there's a flicker of flame around every single corner. When I'm at work, I can't help but look out at the burned sign. But Bill, I knew I had to do something about it. If he's messing about with your family and he's seen you, then you're next. You might be in danger, Elle. Every week he goes with his mates to this local club. It's got some fancy name that I don't much care for. It's just on the edge of town. They have some drinks and chat about whatever those sort of blokes talk about. A bunch of them are on council, probably who they want to block and who they don't. So I decided one night to follow them out there, see what it was really all about and what Bill did in his off hours. I told the family that I was catching up with some mates and headed down. I managed to find a spot near an open window, down near some bushes. I don't reckon anyone knew I was there. They just chatted and went on, stuff about their lives and what they wanted to do. It seems like most of them hate Darwin one way or another. Kept calling it a backwater, soon to be dead, they said. Guess we've proved them wrong, hey? But then they finished up after a couple of hours and, well, Bill stayed there for a bit. He was doing some paperwork or something. And then he stopped and started to move stuff around. It looked like he was clearing everything to make room for something in the middle. He grabbed all of his papers and made a big pile in the room. And then he lit a match and he threw it onto the papers, right in the middle of this big wooden building. They caught alight so quickly and the flames were tall, almost as tall as Bill. The fire just stayed in that one place and Elle, you have to believe me. Bill, he stepped into the fire and disappeared. He just vanished. It was like the fire sucked him up or something. That was just... It was too much for me. Even now, I'm shaken. I wish I'd stayed, Elle. I really do, but I couldn't. I got really scared and ran all the way back home. I wasn't quiet or anything. If somebody was out, they would have seen me. I don't know if they did, but... And the worst thing, I was working the next day and Bill walked in to grab a paper, just as if nothing had happened. He was walking and talking. Didn't have a scratch on him. I just took his cash and he walked out. Hardly said 2 words to each other. He's bad news. Elle, have we gone too far? Is this really our problem? We can't be putting ourselves in danger for what some tape recorder says. Look, just think about it. Watch yourself.
You've been listening to Best Left Forgotten. You can find and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Best Left Podcast and on our Best Left Forgotten Facebook page, where we post updates, info, and additional content. Music by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. Licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0. Cover art by Caddy Wampus, who can be found on Fiverr. Thanks to Jess Wolfendale, our editor, Miriam Feats, our social media manager, and Nathan Quadro, our GM and producer. If you enjoyed our podcast today, please leave a review and tell your friends.